Hello everybody. For this particular video I'm just going to take a walk along a short stretch of Bishopwearmouth Cemetery along this path up to the Southern Chapel, which is currently just been announced that it is going to be renovated. So I'm just going to have a look at a few headstones and point out a couple of things that might be of interest. The first one, this particular monument, I think it's come apart. It would have been quite high ones, two bits on the floor, and then it's all been separated. This is the family burial place of Robert and Louisa Bell, and this is in loving remembrance of Josiah George Bell, their only surviving son, who died suddenly 19th of April 1883, aged 36 years, formerly organist at the Deptford Church. Sometimes you get quite a lot of information off some of these headstones if that's one of your ancestors and so on. And this is on the other side, it's got quite a few people mentioned on here in memory of my dear father Ralph Bell, who departed this life on the 25th of December 1845, and the 63rd year of his age. He died on Christmas Day and was interred in Bishopwearmouth churchyard. That is St. Peter's. That's one thing you might notice. People of the time didn't generally use the name St. Peter's. It's always referred to as like Bishopwearmouth Church or Bishopwearmouth Parish Churchyard. So that's for members of the Bell family. You should know by now, I think my favourite type of headstones are these ones made out of, I think that's blue slate, and that's an affectionate remembrance of Mary, the beloved wife of Francis Atkinson, who died August the 4th, 1865, aged 42 years. Not lost, but gone before. As you can see, they keep so much of the detail and very rarely wear away. That solid, and even that you could give it a little clean with a damp cloth, and all of that, like moss, whatever's growing inside it, would go. So that, and that, who died at 1865, so we're talking 159 years approximately old. I'll give or take a year or so, depending on when they erected it, and that's still in excellent condition. Now this is the vault of the Turnbull family. There's more than one person buried in this particular vault. There's Thomas Scott Turnbull. He had one of the biggest drapery shops in town. Born in Newcastle, and died after a short and painful illness. And then Frederick, the third son of the above, born 1858, and perished with all hands in the Great Queensland, which sailed from Gravesend in the 6th of August 1876. Never quite worked out how he ended up at sea when his father was one of the richest men in Sunderland. So I don't think he was even like a master mariner, like a captain of the ship. Just possibly, I think he was a steward or something along those lines. But that ship, the Queensland, it's believed it was carrying a cargo, I think of fertiliser or something, dynamite or something like that, and it exploded. This is quite rare in Bishopwearmouth Cemetery. It's actually a burial vault, and I believe these holes on the side were to let air in, but they've been filled in. So when I wrote about this on Facebook, somebody commented that I think back in the 70s or 80s you could actually see into here through like the doors. The bit actually being bricked up, so you'd have come in here and there would have been some sort of steps down with shelves on the side, and each time a family member was buried they would have put one of the coffins onto one of those particular shelves. So that's quite rare, and obviously I don't know if they're rare here because of the water table or just the fact that they cost an absolute fortune. So you'd have to buy the land for it, pay somebody to build it, and that's, I won't show you that, but there's like a poo bag. Some people are just discussing dumping poo bags in a cemetery. This one is quite an interesting particular area. Now This is for members of the McRae family. I'm going to come back to this in a moment because there's another one for this particular family, and I'll go give you some detail. More of that when these people have gone past. This is for members of the McRae family. This is John McRae, born, I think this is 1832, and he died 18th of August 1864. And then there's Emily McRae, born October 1860, died 19th November 1862. And then John Albert McRae, born March 1862, died November, I think it's 1863 or 65. So I've written a story about this particular family called The Family. It's on Facebook if you just have a look for it. Now that will be 1862. So these were the three children of Martha and the John McRae. Sorry, I've mixed that all up. John is the father, and that's Martha, husband and wife. John McRae was the son of a mariner from Blythe, and Martha was the daughter of a mariner. Now, Martha died, I think that's 1869, aged 36 years. So in the space of 7 years, the whole 4 members of this entire family died. 3 of them died at Frederick Street, and then Martha, who was a widow, died in Foyle Street, which is that lovely street in the centre of Bishopwearmouth. John McRae's grandfather, obviously with a name like McRae, was from the Isle of Skye, who I think ended up in Northumberland. And there's Thomas Hall McRae at the top. He's the father of John McRae over there, and it's got all his members of his family. Thomas Hall McRae, he actually died at 37 Blandford Street, which I think is the British Heart Foundation shop. Just to give you an example of how Blandford Street was a residential area. And John McRae, who just visited there, he was a solicitor, so a nice, decent job. This one, I've never looked at this one before. Actually, I've walked past it. Look at that. Remembers Richard Southern Burkitt, son-in-law of the above. That's the Naseby family above. Captain of the bark Brightest Star, who died at sea, February the 9th, 1873, aged 47 years, deeply regretted. So common, sadly, the amount of men and women who died at sea and are remembered here. Now I'm gonna there's a Commonwealth Graves Commission soldier, some F.R. Hall, Royal Artillery, died 1941, aged 34. Now this is a fine one. There's a story on this as well. This is in memory of Thomas Robson Johnston, who was for 18 years Secretary of the Sunderland branch of the Friendly Society of Iron Founders, tongue twister, born January the 8th, 1856, died January the 14th, 1906. If I remember, I think he was born in Newcastle on time. And his wife, she lived to a good age, 95 years, only died in 1954. And it was erected by members of the above society of the Northeast Course. Northeast. I can't read that actually. Northeast Course as a token of their appreciation of the services and esteems of this sterling character, of his sterling character. But the main story in this one is this: in remembrance of Ernest Little Johnston. That was his son, and he was the husband of Mary Johnston, and he died April the 2nd, 1916, through injuries received in the Zeppelin air raid, aged 31 years. On that particular, I think it was the day before, a German Zeppelin flew over Sunderland. It went down Millfield, over Monk Weymouth, dropping its bombs. Witnesses saw a German hanging over the side, leaning over the side, just dropping bombs onto people's houses and trams and across the town. Killed a number of people, I think it's 12, something like that. There is a memorial, you might have driven past it over at Bishopwearmouth, near the green at Bishopwearmouth, to them. I didn't even know there'd been a Zeppelin raid across Sunderland until a couple of years when I saw that headstone. That's why I think cemeteries are great places to learn history. Lots of stuff you would never ever come across. What have we got here? This is just another memory of Henry William Watson. Now he died 1916. I think is it 91 years? And look at what a cool name that is. Adeline Unity. And there's lots of members of the Watson family there. We'll come along here, we've got lots of the headstones for the great and the good. They're getting larger. Members of the Adamson family, a good Scottish name. Look at the size of this burial ground there. That was owned by one family, so it'd be quite a few members of that particular family laid to rest in that space. And that is Thomas for members of George and Jane Clark. I'm not guessing that might have been, is it shipyards? Something along those lines. And I've got memory of Frederick Horn, barrister at law and deputy lieutenant for the county of Durham. Look at that fine one there, memory of memoriam of Elizabeth Stewart of Balacon Cottage, Rothbury. Now, eldest daughter of the late Reverend Ettrick of High Barnes. Widow of William John Stewart, Esquire, Comptroller of Her Majesty's Customs, Sunderland, who died at Cannes, February the 22nd, 1858, and formerly widow of Lieutenant Novoselelsky of the Royal Navy, who died at Bath. That's members of the Ettrick family. Who used to own lands up at High Barnes. I think that's where you get Ettrick Road from. It's a bitterly cold day. There's a good autumn sight. All the leaves are down. There's the cemetery chapel, which I mentioned is going to be restored. It's a lovely building. It's a shame it ended up like this, but there was 3 cemetery chapels in here. This one, a small Catholic one over towards Hilton Road, and then just in the centre where I've just come from up there, there was a non-conformist cemetery chapel, which I think got demolished in the 70s. I'm just going to carry on walking along this particular path, see if anything spots anything of interest that I spot. I've got a few videos coming up if I can actually get into town when it's quiet on a morning to do. One is the murder at the Mill Pond story of events that happened near the university back in the late 1800s, and also Ghost in the Attic, about events that happened at the place which is now the Cooper Rose. And see one to the memory of Chirry, beloved wife of Arthur Bathgate. What a great name there is, Chirry. This is one from a wife remembering a husband, George Moore, who was drowned by enemy action September the 15th, aged 31 years, and that's where this is where his wife's buried, but obviously she's put her husband's name on there to remember him. And there is one I want to show you, but I can never remember where it is. That's a fine Celtic cross, members of the Thompson family. That's a fine one. For members of the burial ground for members of the Moore family. Oh, look at that. I've been past here hundreds of times. I've never once looked at this particular headstone. I always say there's some things you've never noticed. Every time you visit, you'll find something that you've never seen before. So in loving memory of Edward Hayden Moore, he won the military cross there with the MC, captain of the York and Lancaster Regiment, killed in France April the 25th, 1917, aged 24 years. And then look, that must be his brother Geoffrey Moore, Lieutenant, RNAS. So I'm not too sure, I've never come with that. Is that Royal Naval Artillery Service? If anybody knows, comment. Killed at Mudros, February the 26th, 1918, aged 23 years. And then sadly the following year, the only daughter, Molly, our only daughter, who left us February the 28th, 1919, aged 19 years. So for 3 consecutive years, they lost a child. Well, I'd say child. They're all 19, 23, 24. Just shows you what some people have to go through. There's probably a picture of Edward Hayden Moore. I'm assuming the family had some wealth to put up in a monument like this. And, you know, it's both a captain and a lieutenant, not just a private. So, right, I'm going to finish off here because my hands are absolutely freezing. And I'll leave you. If you ever visit Bishopwearmouth Cemetery, you've got to come and visit this one. That is absolutely amazing. Probably my favourite memorial in the whole cemetery for Gunner James William Rutherford. I've done a little video about him before, but I'll leave you with one last. So anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. If you do like it, please give it a like, and if you wish to, click on the subscribe for future videos. Thank you very much.